다들인데야 알페베 가수다 드린데 감마 파운데이션 기 처리 챕터 소머베 드네다 좀 디토리아 페베게 남블링게 소머로리아 예 토마르 쯤지다 드시들이 쉐이.
First of all, I would like to greet and welcome all of you who have come here tonight to this event created or arranged by the Karmapa Foundation.
드네 안다리디 가수라다 토마 예 고급 디송제네 Karmapa Foundation 기 board member 당 다나 신기 다리기 다 어릴리아 팀 수보용하다디 가수라다 저지 진행기 레지바 용리아 안 투시샤인 스캬즈기 안다 다리 뒤주디 부르셰 린주산 디나로리아 안 캬즈기 뒤주 막보지다 아나지 가수라다 강에 막보지 캐세지도 셰요 린주사 디균센데네 안 캬즈다 안차요 뒤주 막보지 디당 당예비지도 이미 주산에 다리디 고급디 송세 안 참으로 투시샤인.
I would also like to begin by thanking all of the members of the board of the Karmapa Foundation and everyone else who has worked so hard, who has put so much time and so much hard work, who has extended so much of their precious time to enable this, my third visit to America, to occur. Thank you all.
미사메기 expecting which 당아 시부지 가주 미사메 마젠바지 녜시아 여러 some expecting which 거봐 미신다 기타 마젠바 지 당알이야지 가주지 마시아지 여러 some this expectation which 상물이야 용디가 알아 당원의 집이나 가 집으로 주세 아 참아 집으로 주세 녜기 가수에 니주 상원올리아 지 가로에 강에 참세 투야 그 털는지 말레이시아요 말이 나라이네 지 강에 나로 동대교 미르시 링주산에 안 강에 참서 제대로 프로 지지 시아요 말.
I suppose everyone is expecting me to say something that they've not yet thought of themselves, but really we're in much the same position. I cannot solve all the problems there are, as I still have lots of problems myself.
가수에 초진에 라우다디 초진이 시합입니다. 지 가수에 소술리 당 아랑 그다 토메 시시를 시합이나 조된 아랑 롭종 시합을 지다 아랑리 지 롭종 라야를 지다 다나 신기 로게 라야를 지직 시합도 용버시 안 타마르 지산에 아니 지 녜지마 상을 기저를 시하고 와서 샤브레 오늘 처시를 들지 말해 다 이미를 샤브레 그래서 다 기저 먹고 시에 이미 인자다 지금 마체지다 가서 찍부찍부를 시 마더베 지 사바사브를 시야 매베서치 안드레도 안에 그뒤 이미에 다지 톡 제주산다 가르를 시에고나 섬르지 당부 아저지 톡치가 연주산 너무 강가 돼요 말다 니시에 왔었어 게 말아 안당 고르 주지 톡 기시야 된 고도 마 주연주산에 안 글리지 가주에 제니르 제제 안 삼당시 다시 이 시야를 좀 마도 당분을 저지 싶제제 안 차추 싶제 이렇게 요아다 그런 하고 싶다.
The main purpose, at least my main purpose in this third visit to the United States was to be able to visit this country's great universities. And so far, I've had the precious opportunity to visit 5 of them and have had to give at least one talk at each one. Now, my intention in coming here was to study and learn, but somehow this trip, which from my side was supposed to be a learning experience for me, has turned into more of a series of lectures that I have to give. This was not my initial plan. In fact, at this point, I've given so many lectures that I notice that my talks are somewhat repetitious. I seem to say many of the same things every time I give a talk. I think partly it's because I've had to give so many talks that I don't really have the time to think of anything new to say. And when it's about time to give a talk, I have a hard time thinking of anything really to say. Anyway, I will talk. How about this? I will talk till 8 o'clock, and then we can have questions and answers.
Topic the current we understand or the heart and mind join together. That day, topic there, Damu Mother Yawachi Hakumaso. That in a Tanam Kaswe. Kaswata. Tangian
The topic for this evening is joining heart and mind. This is news to me. I was just informed what the topic is.
That range, Chidangi Kaswata, Nazuegi. Azu Chunjun Galia, Lojan Chebe Galia, traditional summer, Sugungi, Aji Kashija, the Lojan Chebe Galia, Azushia, Jig, emphasize Jasamar, Zenduin Shia, Karshus, Twesam Goms of Sashi. That Twesam Goms of Sadinane, Twesam Nibudi Paji, artificial understanding, that the touching to artificial understanding being able to be able to artificial understanding of share. That in a gom sidusane, tenjeview the under Twesam, Susegi energy Tube to Entelia, the Simshi Chabas of the Masebe. That did Susegi Gulia, Yamyon Kiava Chadang, Susu Gulia, Kumji Chaji. That day, the final session of the project, Tamadelia, Tindiji Yongwarji, as with that, Zendur.
In the type of traditional education that I underwent when I was young, the main emphasis is on the threefold process of hearing, thinking, and meditating. And the knowledge one gains through hearing or study and thinking or analysis is in a sense somewhat artificial. It's not entirely artificial, but it is primarily not experiential, rather more theoretical. It is with the third step, meditation, that we actually begin to gain a direct experience of what we have read or heard and familiarize ourselves with the direct experience. And that finally, that direct experience and growing familiarization is the final or ultimate emphasis of the training.
Meditation levels are a goms and some Mimauja Samle Naloleaji G. Kashurepa G. Something focus challenge. Yana G. Kashu relax challenge. This is something Kore. Even an associated meditation sat the Jigoma image. Meditation sat the Susugi, Yamsulambe Tendadi, and Susugi. Mizinang Chashir Chatwaji. 소수기 초연한 차시를 차도야 지당 텔레야 지 소수기 콤신 집을 차 텐디질이야 아주 관행이야.
When we talk about meditation, especially when we use the English word meditation, people often imagine that we're talking either about a process of learning to focus our mind sharply or a process of learning to relax. But we actually mean something more than that when we talk about meditation. We mean the process of bringing something into deeply felt experience, so that it becomes an object of feeling, not just knowledge, something that we apply in our lives, and something that we become more and more familiar with. Therefore, our main goal in this type of training is that what we study and practice be not simply something we have studied or read, something we know theoretically, but something that we have experienced in our heart and that therefore changes our whole life. So when we study the instructions of our holy forebears, we do so in order to be able to apply these instructions in a very practical way in our daily lives, to gain actual experience of them, so that they influence our lives, that they influence our view of the world, and actually our path into the future.
Under spiritual practice,
Our spiritual practice, therefore, cannot be limited to what we do in our shrine rooms or place of formal meditation. We must bring it outside the walls of our shrine or selected sacred space, bring it into our workplace, and especially bring it into the problems and apply it to the problems that we face. The point of spiritual practice is that we develop a greater courage to face challenges.
참인지기 냠래래야 투주 매버지 투주기 제바 매버지 restriction 매버지 그도 의미네야 데 냠래 차야 되지 아도 리지 가서 과도 개좀 찾아.
Therefore, the most important form of spiritual practice is the cultivation of love and compassion. And there are no time restrictions on these practices, because love and compassion are always needed and always applicable.
참바다 니지 공경기 가사를 대지해버지 아니 공규기 참바니지 사도 가져대게버지 그래서 참바다 니지다 공경 가사데 버룰이야 지 가서에 갭 가지지기 다 파르동 가지지 르는 예외네 대수지기 아니 참바다 니지 냠랜디 아니 야보처음이야 가지지기 녀 예지가 안 타마를 주스다는데 지 송주고 소리 차지 지 냠소 랭기기 가사 지다 냠소 랭유기 참바데 니사 수도 매버치지 냠소 렘바보 코랑 아니 참바데 니지 등이 참바데 니지 딱 한다 정신이로지 주버 체과데 이렇게 좀 자료야.
It's often said that the practice of love and compassion consists of closing the gap between the practitioner and the practice. As long as there is a great distance between the person meditating on love and compassion and actual love and compassion, their meditation has not been very successful. We need to steadily close that gap until there is no difference between the person meditating and the love and compassion that they seek to cultivate, until the person becomes a true embodiment of love and compassion.
Replaced by shen of that the champagne somebody and so identities or the Kadaji Tedan the case.
We are normally shockingly selfish in our self-fixation, and this is what we need to change. We need to replace our identification with an obsession with ourselves to an identification with an empathy toward others. We need to replace our selfishness with benevolence and altruism.
and shen la dene ka shu chung de shi che zang da sa de and shen gi da cha she so shi and sha de.
Our selfishness is based upon the misconception that what we think of as I or me has an independent existence. But in fact, no one exists independently of others. It would be far more accurate to say, I exist to such an extent in dependence on others that I am really just a part of others. We need to understand interdependence, including our interdependent connectedness with others. And in fact, mere understanding of this is insufficient. We need to experience it feel it, and recollect it.
드린주다 가르에 진제다 찍을 찍되다 찍을 찍 제바차는 여비 민주산 디준센을 때네 에너지 가르에다 장의 진지 체반듯이 에너 시에는 진지 사데 오늘 체빈다 시에는 장의 진지 체가 균제 여반듯이 시에는 진지 체가 균제인데 장기 강기 용다
To the extent that we actually feel our interdependence, that each one of us depends upon all others, and our interconnectedness, that we are each connected to all others, we will understand the reason why it is as valid to cherish others as it is to cherish oneself.
대야 망부치리야 더지 시엔의 진지 체아데 시엔의 제배왕기 진지 체바마이바 다 타나야지 랑의 제배왕기 시엔의 진지 체과로 가르잖아 아니 랑 야부치 연구하나 아니 시엔 야부 뭐용이야 랑 야부 용하사디 용하 매비 인두산에 디 균센데네 시엔의 제배왕기 시엔의 제배를 진거바데 뭐 마고바 시에 마고바 인바점도 마세베기 랑의 제배 균센도 제배이네요 아니 시엔의 제배는 진거하디 개체모인데지
While it is obvious that it is worthwhile to cherish others for the benefit of those others, it is perhaps less obvious but equally true that we must cherish others if we cherish ourselves. Because none of us can actually survive alone. We survive in dependence upon one another, and therefore it is only by serving others that we can ever serve our own needs.
칼라시 무슨이다 마젠디 남주지 칼라사디다 마젠디 자첨 임르지다 아주 신다지 수수 칼라사디 개체체마다 마젠디를 주도식 말마다 꼭 가르인 가르미 마젠 수임이 아주 변나 사가지 침비나 칼라디 사중로마다 칼라소니 마젠디 컨트리미 디고라 아주 심제다 심구스 개치가만 이비네디 칼라소니 마젠디 나서 법에 서로지 갱에 근데 충분히미나 아주 칼라드라고 말아 칼라드 말아도 아니 에너지 마젠들 상만 마다라 칼라드 말아도 신이 다시 소술이야 강에 태연이 산데 임생 가르래도 따연데 마젠디 나서 법에 때 에너지 임바데 신이 하고지 동원에 아주 임생 상만 마다라 말 된도 다 간다라 Think
about how we relate to food. When we eat delicious food, we often utterly ignore the fact that someone cooked it for us. We may have no curiosity about the cook, no interest in the cook. For example, when you go to a restaurant, you go there thinking about the food you're going to eat and what you want to select. You're not thinking about who is it who actually did the hard work of cooking this. And yet, were there no one to cook your food, you would not have food. I suppose if we were dying of hunger because all the cooks stopped cooking or we couldn't find anyone to cook, then all of a sudden we would realize the importance of a cook and we might say, where have all the cooks gone? Because at that point, it would be in our self-interest to do so. So generally, we ignore anything that does not pertain to our immediate self-interest.
And susugi kandaraji self-interest sanandrado self-selfish samaro the tilebe geche ronamado and di samade kwade kala khamsha din jeba di hakumendo di pendo di mishinda jeba kan cha di yebdi hakumare mishinda pendo kan yongdi di yebdi hakoda kala hamdo.
Sometimes it's not obvious or apparent to us the degree to which we are connected to others, the degree to which we are all dependent on one another. We are so limited by our self-interest that we don't see this, we don't think of it. So we need to cross beyond the boundaries established by our self-interest, extend ourselves beyond the field of our immediate self-interest. And only by doing so will we be able to effectively interact with and be of benefit to others.
The reality is reality can we need to talk this kaba thing as you shen watch. As you nang so some yi much of chichen. Doing me tolia is to culture you some don't want it. Awareness squad, catch me such a understand? Yeah. Good job.
There is a big difference between the apparent self or I and what is actually there. And unless we learn to recognize that difference, we will not be able to extend ourselves beyond our obsession with the mere appearance of an I.
Relatively summer weather. That's Tungian is Yahu started. That Tungian is Yahu every day, and it Kashuraji. The Kandar Jig do it, Manguchi do it on the God penalty. Mazulia to lodge every day, Marcheji, Lumbudine, Swesha, Lumbushindaji. American Maimba, Lumbushindaji in the Swesha. Tana is this from Gent is in Bina, Takanga Mangushi. And Kuzugi, that's something yet. Kuzu, the wood in Yan, you wouldn't answer down them. The wood Dakuzunya, by immunity to lock and a deal to launch it, answer launch it. But the day among which I on the order, the day because then awareness, some awareness, summer, the Digiguadi, and that Zambling Tolia, that case of charging orders.
America, of course, is an extremely powerful and very prosperous country with all sorts of resources and luxuries. And yet, even amidst this, we need to become aware of our dependence on others. For example, most of the clothes we wear are not made in this country, they're made in other countries. And they're often made under extremely unpleasant and arduous circumstances, which makes me think that we are enjoying the pleasant fruit of others' suffering. We need to gain an awareness of global realities like this in order to be responsible citizens of this world.
지금 아주지 가수라다지 겐쿠를 해야지 많이 봐. 겐쿤도 삼았어. should 많이 봐. 아니 want 사. 다들 지금 겐쿤도 삼았대. 좋아다 제베 겐쿤도 삼았. 가다 인지 다 대한 베지 학생들 제베 겐쿤도 삼아 봐야 돼. 계속 있으라.
And with regard to responsibility, a healthy sense of responsibility is grounded in compassion. We don't undertake responsibilities simply because we should. We undertake responsibilities because we want to. We do so joyously because we feel, because we are concerned, because we are compassionate.
참 니지해야 돼. 다가스 가서 가는 sympathy 사르지, empathy 사르지, 미신다지 강엘이야, 심크루야 버sam시다. understanding에 대해서 좀 많이 봐. 다디 지 more involvement 선한다도 야나지 more dedicated somewhere. That's it. Dana sing more action, take action somewhere. That's the individual. And the individual is Dona Rani, the Kasa, the Chashir Church, the Nature Tone, Susuki, Takanda Ning Tawane, Tona Samus gave Chewade, Ketchumisr.
Compassion is much stronger than mere sympathy or empathy, merely feeling something about others' sufferings. It is more involved than that. It is being willing to undertake a true involvement, it is dedication, and it is much more active. It is feeling that others are part of you and you are part of them. It is a heartfelt emotion.
That this young Chablia, the condition Nancy, responsibilities of the Ginkurgi somebody Chismshik chair, you may, that del rally de Chigdang, and Danasing Ginkurgi, Ningdobdi, Chismshik chair, you may, tell rally de Chimbi into Sun, Tigus and Dana, Ginkundu, Ginkurgi Sambata, Ginkurgi, Ningdobdi, and Ninji Tawanuchi. Chadi user.
I think, therefore, that the willingness to undertake responsibility, the sense of innate responsibility for others, accompanied by courage, the courage to joyously bear that responsibility, are necessary roots of compassion.
Then that equal down on Mangosia, the Shamoche, that Hamadelia, Marangi, Mizilo, you that Jeche, and the Kandeche, Susu Mizina Lolea, Takashwe. The Chabadin is the understanding the Mayama, that is Susugi, Yamner of the Kandiche, Delia, Yoso Kandicho, Meticolia, and do shines.
I'm not going to go on about that, however. I want to talk a little bit about experiential love and compassion as opposed to mere understanding, using some of my own life experiences as an example.
Me Manguchi Gama big Soa the Kadim, but Gama was Kurgi Sonan Kadri. Imagination channel, the Kalahabursure. Near Chilia, you near the Alia Junto Moshev. The Zugi imagination channel, the Kalahabstado, Jezan, Oma Singi, Jidang, the me, Jimmy, Jimina, the Lawardo, and imagination channel, the Kalahabstado.
Many people wonder what it is like being the Karmapa, what it feels like to be the Karmapa. Well, I think it's very, very hard for anyone to imagine. I think it would be hard even for those who know me well to imagine, let alone for anyone else.
Lo, that I get you the Chidong you go Kongala Kene. And that Lord Dung Barulia and the culture so simple some pabanizing that's what gets there. I chung to it, I gave a Golia, Tang's hand of Cashichon, star, Dashi Betan of Cashichon. Says I see injuries are to be good injuries, did it say to Yamata. Intuition. That Candaria, the Industan, so a human of case. Cesar Pazzi, Eagle, Kenneth, the Lord Dungubur, Soa di Susu Mizina, or this Kashwataji Jetta maybe, that Kandar Kashwaji. Soa. Cup did you the Chingmar, that Tinsan Pazzi did Yasi Kashway, Yana Yandu di.
I was born in 1985, and until I was 7, my life was fairly simple, and my feelings, my experience was pretty ordinary, pretty simple. There were some auspicious signs surrounding my birth, which caused people to assume that I was a tulku of some kind, but they didn't particularly know who. So for my first 7 years, I had a kind of experience that is hard to describe, but all I can say is that nowadays, looking back on it, I repeatedly find myself missing it.
다른 롯 유니아 레베컬이야. 아니 그러다지. 가마베 search parties 말이야. 가마베 전갱의 그룹이 아주 롱발레래. 그래서 아주 롱바디 롱고도 저래 롱고. 저단지는 고수 배발을 봐. 제가 용해도 배발을 해야 임비는 아주 디스 기지 시두산 겁다 주면 됐어. 고수디 아주 남유 칠로미터 잡으셔야 말 제가 고수 센트럴 티베트니 용비 인상 고수 기지 시두산 기규르조 기규르조지 계시야. 다가나 롱롱을 도시야. 제자는 까마비 임버를 도 쉐브레. 다 되게 까마비 임버 되게 다 간다 참으로 서프라이즈. 예, 다 파마 이내도 롱베미 이내에 참으로 서프라이즈 체제. 수직레디 30다 similar 30다 and the expectation 수직레 아마라서.
Then when I was 7, the search party that was looking for the reincarnation of the Karmapa arrived. Now where I lived at that time in Tibet was a particularly isolated part of Tibet in the east. And since the search party were coming primarily from central Tibet, they spoke so differently from the people where I was living that we had to have someone translating. We couldn't really communicate with one another very well. But anyway, they said I was the Karmapa, and this surprised all of us. It surprised my parents, my siblings, all of us. Everyone was surprised. We were utterly unprepared for that.
Then, that Karmapa music chidande, escape charu, Pajichame, Karesana, the Karmapa music chidano, Shiraga Kaju, ruled of the Demashibu, the Kandisra, Karmapa Gundi, Kukomandigi, the Koran Kiawajima Kawalengi, Nadigi, Sajo Kawalengi, and a Pamemin country, but and a log of the some detail of Cheshire, that the escape chare, Kauruba.
However, there was no escaping from this recognition, because the basis for my recognition as the Karmapa was the letter left by my predecessor describing my birthplace, the names of my parents, and the year of my birth. And since they all matched, there was no way for me to get out of this. I remember thinking, when I was very young, I would like to ask the 16th Karmapa why he picked me. But of course I couldn't, because he had already passed away.
And the Tomar, Shebekale, or the Kamabachan Kibu Gire, Zamaza Mambre, Zemozan get Homamore, somebody did chance. Diana Jemadrijan Revenue.
And then I thought, well, at least maybe if I'm the Karmapa, I'll get a lot of toys and a lot of friends to play with. But it didn't work out that way.
That name, this is the Mamma Guchar. And the name go bed on Yayong, or go bed on Yundustane, and then you who said Yam to Zemazang at the Boomam Gorva. The Boomam is made. Me gave a game. Me, this senior Ganga, it's all on one. She got serious Ganga. That did it, Yamdo, that's a lot of us.
So I was brought to the monastery, and normal children are surrounded by other children with whom they play and learn together and so on. Well, I didn't have that. There were no other children around me. I was surrounded by a lot of really old people who were very serious. I would even say dour.
다들이 강해지게 아니 소소지 파마다 카테지 다 간다 까마바레스 까마바 인사 다 가져레스 근데 가져를 제어를 서비스다 조시제 다들이 제브레 안드리 인주산다 마시 표현을 대베 걸이야 로직이야다 팅 지니 근데 투야 고급을 줘야래 다 이미래야디 로직이 걸이야데 표현다 카테지 안 야하려 말해 근데 로직이 투야 로직 팅 지니 투야 고급대 매우차
I was also separated from my parents because the people who found me said, well, he's the Karmapa, you have to give him to us. But while I was still living in Tibet, at least I had the opportunity to see my parents once or twice a year. But after I left Tibet at the age of 14 and went to India, I also became separated from any chance of seeing my parents.
아니 다드네 야알레는 로장을 침브레 딱가는 니즈 마우샤 총브레 딱 간다르다 디디지기 가지고 당에 제니를 니지레 다드리 제제 디나로를 지 수수기데 가지고 클리클리제 안 당부도 개요 말 클리클리제 에너지 수수기다 까마바 제아디 고급들지 미신달이야 펜도치야 고급들지 이번에 나랑 통브레 이제 좀 미망부 제게 안을 저를 치가래 저와 저기 인주산 소수용면에 입니다. 다 간다르지 가지고디 고급의 직통 다음에 좀 미신다기 저와 있는 지 망부지 소소리야. 저와 망부 충분히 인상 텔레덴제 아니 소소용면에 다지 가지고 셴페 주야기 던 듬바스는 나도 셴페 주야리야 지 몇번을지 걸리거리 충분해. 림디 충분해.
I've been living in India for 15 years. During that time, a lot of stuff has happened, and that's basically been my journey. Gradually, over time, I came to view my position as the Karmapa as an opportunity to help others. People like me, they place their hopes in me, they have faith in me, they love me. So this has fostered in me a great interest in using my position and what ability that gives me to be a real help to others and to the world.
거두고 소화 매버를 듣지 말아요. 거두고 소화 전부야. 다는 신기 미신달이야지. 강에 매버 즉 안하려다 간다. 간다 미신다게 또 미신다 강에를 제비 있는데 즉 강에의 셰치서를 줘봐. 당에 강에의 술 셰치서 개매서 다 간다. 강에디 다 간다지 라다 개번냐버를 지리야 셰치보다 까마버성이 신다를 주는 즉 셰를 주다 되게 가라 하고. 아 민주스탄에 하다들이 간다지 제아디에 소다지 시행을 펜버르지 되지 총나 사버르지 아 대야지 소소 나버인 비견선을 되네 아더 셴벤 루그르사 되지 많이 버세 아니 소소닝 타버네 에너지 시행을지 자와르지랑 시행이야 펜버르지 좁토는 사버르 다들지 사버르지 도시제 코체 넘버스
I've learned to willingly accept the challenges I have to face and use the opportunity I'm given to help others. But I'm not saying that I don't have feelings, that I don't go through ups and downs, that I don't get sad. I do. I experience the same sort of feelings and ups and downs as everyone else. The difference between me and everyone else is everyone else has at least one person with whom they can share their feelings, share their problems. I don't actually have anyone with whom I can share my feelings or my problems or my challenges. So I try as best I can to help others, and I really want to. It's not just because I'm a Buddhist or because I have this position. That's what I really want to do.
understanding zamayibata di chi khande che saadi ta khandar chi kashore understanding di ingdobla khande chi gyurma gyu sa ta khandar chi ngazu mizina lo ya chidang chemde mi chang lo ya ta nge samle ngarang ki case di thon samtabina ta chorang kama ba re chi 고급 ji 첨부 chi te yin anda di sosu jing ge sosulia ge jeba de hawo recognize 아주 미상으로 되는 시래 오늘 시장 아주 상으로 게 상으로 찍고요 안에 예배는 시 상으로 된 게인데요 예비는 아소리야 지 딩게인데 예바데 학과 고거범 디기 차견으로 좀 인사 아주 그 뒤에 있는 되지 게인지 예바증 아주 초고요 말에 손나양 아주 이그노를 치가래 땅에 계시들이야 다디 세우시 차래 저라는 게인데 요레스 여바데 하고 여바는 신 이그노르네 치다 매비 디 준세데네 단지 충분히 진짜 세상 아주 상으로 지고를 심지 어떻게 주스다네 어디래다 다디 제리아 초진제
This is how I would explain, using myself as an example, a compassion that is not merely understanding or understood, but that is courageously applied in our lives. This was brought home to me by the fact that people will actually say to me, "You're the Karmapa, you have a tremendous opportunity to help others." And this has inspired me to recognize the responsibility that I bear to help others to the best of my ability. But that responsibility is by no means unique to me. This is true of all of us. We all have the same responsibility to help others and to better the world in which we live. We normally are unconscious of it, since no one reminds us of it. And when we occasionally have twinges of feeling, maybe I should be doing something about this and so on, we've learned to ignore those feelings or suppress them. Well, the only difference in my case was that because my position has made my responsibility glaringly clear to me, I've had no opportunity to ignore it. But I would say that the responsibility itself is something that we all share. And having said that, I invite your questions.
Okay. Questions? How to choose question? I don't know. Oh, just stand there. Okay, yes, please. Yeah.
Your Holiness?
Yes.
I'm Cynthia.
I'm Catherine.
We're sisters, and we actually have a very similar question. So maybe we'll ask a few questions, and you can answer whatever you want. We were both very curious about your travels with the students in the universities, wondering what you were hoping to learn. I feel a little bit sad that you didn't get to learn maybe, and you're now teaching a lot on this trip. But what were you hoping to learn? What were your experiences like with the students?
And I was just wondering, because you had such a different growing up experience, if you relate to any of the students you meet and how you relate to them.
다치당가 살론 소설이 very traditional 말하면 traditional 살론 소설에 레인주산에 미망고질이야 curious 말하면 다지 나들 traditional 지난 살론 소설이 molding student is 데바치아드 컨디션 소설에서 또 이번에 예스물이야 지당 알아는 유니지 갈래 수부디 traditional 지 살론 소설에 있는 sympathy traditional 지 보면 이미지다 간다지 상물로 accept 해야지 open for everything. So, I'm going to say, "Bezir chigare." And then we can say, "And she carried that she susuing name now, and tindu ge she student. Nation, tang arine, chojin arine, got a lot of jewelry chaggy sana, as an asuji, mirror lochun pinsuin chigilia, chi, casualties. Pinsuin chigilia, chi, casualta, chi. 대화도 동에 시에레 자르당 다나 신기 섬주 제렌샤다 계시면 싶지 차대가 와서 something. 라버도야 아 야갈 대비 거리야 아메리카의 루루 막 토브래. 아주 아메리카 루루도 토두상 아니야 소나 치슈지 가르쳐줬잖아. 지단 쿠란 소리야지 가르래. 딩류기 신기 로종 지 제토비 지 가르래. 여버전 마세베 그수기 가르지. 마음베 지소당 점블링기 마음베 체대입니다. 그래서 승구를 시작해야지. 이제부터 그저 스타로디 가심으로씩 아 안다나 신기 그래서 맞아요. 그저 수수기 점블링디 야보지와 체 수수용에 가르쳐 도임에 이제기다 간다 좋아지기입니다. 그저 그 질이야 삼분인데 뜬거여 버리지. 근데 초도서 근데 이 유저된 텔레제는 알아야는 베지 된대지 저와 첨부지당 안는 가수라다지 가수 첨부를 시작 중었어. 다들 인기다.
Well, naturally, the students with whom I've conversed are very curious about what my, to say the least, very traditional upbringing has been like. While I am thoroughly steeped in tradition, I would say that my body has been steeped in the tradition, but I've tried to keep my mind open-minded and broad-minded. And another thing that makes it very easy to relate to modern American university students is that, don't forget, I'm still quite young. And so my age is not that different from theirs, and so we have a natural affinity, a natural ability.
Some people think I'm 900 years old.
Teasing. A natural ability to openly exchange our experiences and exchange our views. Especially in India, I've met with a lot of American university students, and my main experience has been to be somewhat inspired, very impressed to the point of feeling inspired, not just by the sophistication of their studies, but the vast concern for the future of this world, of this planet, that they exhibit, and their active and serious interest in finding practical ways to help this world and better this world. That's what they talk about, that's what they ask about, that's what they think about. And this has given me a great hope for the future and has inspired me.
Thank you.
나는 골고루 mga 상심 기질 또 답죽진 또 카르탄키니한테 관보 처음도 준제 또 이따다 조금은 보고지요. 이나 니팔라디 늑바지긴다. 또 종송 또 딱바랑인도 손음 그 조지 말이 직삼도 가리나다. 말라 무슨 근자까지 나오르긴.
Okay. Did Jed Tona? Did Jed Tona? Okay. Oh, that is difficult to translate that. Next. Oh, okay. Please.
Having a guru is necessary to be on the path, and that's a very personal connection. Now, with the digital age, it's possible to communicate with many people simultaneously. Manlams and teachings can be simulcast and reach many people all over the globe. As you're using these tools, do you consider there is a danger to the teachings as well as an opportunity?
Okay. Tadi dari andang jidangi karuwa tadi. Tende karuwa di. Dan dos lam jung ta. Tadi jidang nga zui gi ji tab der le la chu. Tadi indus da ding an zu ji karuwa. 다 미망고지 배나 딘예단 등 아주 용디가 배나 미망고지 되게 가수에 다지 배나 아주 야갈 대회가 미망고지 야갈 용토야 미망고지 벤저 킹게면이 용토야 말 가시 위자르가 레인주스탄에 미망고지 용도에네 용모도 내주 도차려야 근데 그냥 차이가 윈주스탄에 엔지 라이브 웹카스트 내가 토네 엔다지 소셜 토라라 소바 근데지 중앙에 그걸 데버 샤토야 다 임비냐 이나야 가수라다지 오늘 전에게 지 최근 데버사 되지기 알아주지 다들 고급을 지금 아주 토고하래 이미는 다지 년대지 납샤 당보대라.
Well, first of all, the use of live webcasts and to some extent social media, as well as the internet in general, has brought a real benefit for many people because, for example, in my case, I live in India, and when teachers live in India, there are many people in other countries who simply cannot afford or cannot easily get a visa to go to India. And in such cases, live webcasts and so forth give them an opportunity to share in the Dharma, to share and form a connection with the teachings that they might otherwise lack.
이미는 오늘은 지금 라마들 로맨 제바사데 든지지게 가르쳐라듯이 가르쳐라고 다시 제바 줌을 좀 많이 붙이 다들 초전에 줌을 좀 하다 소셜 미디어 당 오늘 전에지 대야지 가르쳐라듯이 고아디베 띵 사모지다 can sort of can feel it can touch it someone with that 든지지 고아디 다 쉽게 좀 잘해요 타나야 딱 안들지 가셔야지 든지지가 무슨 그 제버도 고아디 쉽게 좀 잘해요 지당 아주 남기 베너지 소소기 패밀리 멤버 든지도 냠도 니마 딱 바르지 계시에 되비네 다시 소셜 미디어 통 계시에 되비네 뭐 투버들 개발시타요 근데 이제 디균zel 때네 하는 아주 이게 대zam기 이 샘플 맞으시지 오늘 전에던 저버디 something we can 가르쳐다 touch it feel it 든지 고아디 쉽지 타니고 같이 주면 든지 고아디다 계속 쉽지 않아요 다디 아주 든지 가르쳐야지 소소기 지 왕부터 뭐 서로를 영어로 고아디 다 계속 잘해요 some 정도 다디 가르쳐는 very personal very 가르쳐다지 다지 소소기 오늘 전에
The particular matter of the connection between a guru and the disciples, this connection cannot be artificial. It has to be real. So it has to be a much deeper connection than one can easily gain through social media. Because it is a matter of feeling. It is a connection that is almost tangible and deeply touching, and it has to be therefore direct. To give you an analogy for this, even though distant family members may communicate with one another daily by means of social media, they will still make the effort to visit one another in person because they want that immediacy, that intimacy, a proximity of connection. There's simply more feeling in person. So in the same way, the relationship between a guru and a disciple is that personal and therefore requires a personal interaction face to face because that will allow for the intense feelings which are part of the relationship to develop.
Okay, this way.
Your Holiness, this question is about the arts, and the more I kind of learn about Tibetan culture, learning about, people that don't study in a monastery, there's so much, there's singing, there's dancings, festivals, and the art being a vehicle for Dharma. And my question is, how can you see us creating that in the West, creating a society where Dharma isn't just talks, but the same kind of joyful expression as a vehicle? Sometimes I think in the West it can get very serious and almost tight.
가르쳐 삼로를 땅 부수도 삼로비 우두게 냠도를 제 니구도를 제 대대하는 좀 다디 must active some 다지 수부디미는 this 가르쳐 다지 this 가르 류기 땅덥다 아니지 아기 죄바다 대주다 디지털이야 수수익이 다 간다지 셈기 다 간다지 가르쳐야 돼 가와다 셈기 대화다 안다는 참바의 인지를 소버도 수분 넘겨 돈 받된 타는 비는 심진 시안이야 믹다베 걸이야 믹디에 비냐 아직 참바의 인지기 단 제외건 믹다에 비싸나 거 미디야 미세지 생기 요한 초버를 지당 에너지 지 생기现在早也别的看到가지고 단순으로 차단된 거 같아. 이제서 디균센데는 되게 액티브 거 같다. 쉽게 좀 잘해. 말하지. 최냠레스하든 옆도로 집에 대대에서 다시 삼단대에서 무슨 더 대대로 때문에 맞지. must active somewhere. 다들 인도사는 별이야지 최단 대회기 참가래 다는 최단 대회 루단 가다 망보셔야 돼. 이게 상황로 되지 가지고 최디 다시 코벤 삼류 랩 다 가지고 되지 배샤오 많이 봐. 아주 실무는 바로 제제. 드리지가 도안에 수술 융아 이수인데 간다를 가셔야 되지. 배는 밀레레버는 시리다 밀레레버데 미메가 롱동질 대여하데 이번에 코랑 거다지. 심지엔라 제베 삼바당 라마 대동의 삼바데 롤랑이요 주산 간다를 쉬우지기 다 간다 지 구유 탐제래 지 공그 루이 가지고 단단 디 캬버를 쉬운 거래. 이게 간다를 액티브를 시차는 거. 근데 이 액티브가 딱 해줘. 근데 이제 펜도야 야고 있어.
Yes. Because
Yes.
Dharma practice is not, in reality, the narrow thing that we imagine it to be. We often imagine that Dharma practice consists of sitting quietly, alone, as still as possible, thinking about the same things over and over again until you fall asleep. Dharma practice is much more than that. It is much more active. It involves the articulation, expression, and even embodiment of Dharma in body and speech, physical movement and expression. Even the way that you look at other beings is supposed to be with a loving glance or loving gaze. So therefore, as you mentioned in your question, it has become very much part of Tibetan culture, embodied by the dance in both ritual and secular forms and so forth. The point is that Dharma is not something to hide inward. It's something to extend yourself outward with in body, speech, and mind. To use Jetsun Milarepa as an example, even though he lived in isolated retreats, he still came down to interact with people by singing his songs and filling the areas where he was with the message that he communicated. So, yes, because Dharma must be active.
Okay.
Hi, Your Holiness. It's an honor to ask you a question. How do you balance helping others with also taking care of your own needs? And what advice would you give to a Dharma practitioner who is studying to become a healer, a therapist?
다디 예 마고지 어레 다디 당부디 first steps 말하면 최냐면 그렇지 비네 당부디 지 warm yourself 말하면 되지 수수수수리야지 다지 디기 손아로 지다 주기 손아로 대고 아래 계속 시작해서 근데 잠바도 인지사디 아주 남균이 지세도사 잠바도 인지 지도사는 예 잠바쳐야 돼 미션다 이시다 그렇지 예 잠바쳐야 돼 미신다게 다지 accept 차 쳐다샤 try to understand somewhere 다지 소소기 잠니지 차도 미신다게 accept 차비미나 아니 소소 잠니지 차버들이야 진탕여르지 디 accept 마세비나 이제 진탕매들지 다 이미는 원에 전에 차비나 다디 거야 잠버든지 사디 카치르다 점아이바 다붕에는 잠버든지 진탕으로부터 소소 셰브지 잠버든지 간다르 지 최연도부터 소술이야 레버치지 드리지 다 최대 미신다를 떼고 하듯이 소술하고 사고차지 미신다를 최 떼더지 떼더지 드리지 그거 맞아 소술하고 장무시 미신다리야 근데 힐링 제거서나 가라가고 싶다래 인도산에 지미지 얘네야 소술하고데 사회여버치지 아니 미신다 힐링을 붙여버리면 안된데 미신다래 주기의 용토래라 텔레장 개시에도 당부 소술이야. 되게 다 주기를 용토를 삼정도.
I think the first step in helping others is to develop a warmth toward yourself. And if you have warmth toward yourself, then you actually just have to extend that same warmth toward others as well. Otherwise, when we think of love and compassion as things we can only feel for others and not for ourselves, then they become very conditional. They become very dependent upon people's reaction. We feel that our love and compassion is valuable if others accept it and valueless if they don't. It is more a matter of becoming warm, becoming a warm person, and then allowing that warmth to radiate outward. For example, if you want to warm others' hands on a cold day, first your hands have to be warm. If your hands are cold, you won't be able to warm anyone else's hand by holding it. And this, of course, is all the more true for healers.
I just wanted to thank you, Your Holiness, for this lovely, personal, and profound talk and sharing of ideas and thoughts. And I think I speak for everyone here when I say that we hope that the continuation of your journey from here on out involves fewer lectures and more enjoyment, and that we will wait patiently for that little bit in the bottom of the teacup that you will come back and share with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.